My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today, what I'm going to be doing is actually reacting to a video that's kind of been circulating around for a little bit now from the Through My Lens YouTube channel. This is a great video because it's about 2 hours where I'm assuming he's a photographer. He's got drones and some really good equipment out there. So I'm assuming he's a photographer. And his dad are actually driving around the state. It's about 1,000 miles. They go from Anchorage, Fairbanks, go to Denali National Park, and then they drive down to Seward. And they have a great time kind of just showing all the experiences and attractions you can enjoy along the way. Overall, I think they did a really good job on just showing what Alaska is really like on the ground, just outside of the brochures, and really just kind of showcased everything and in a really realistic kind of light. So I'll go ahead and be reacting to the video, little pieces of it here and there. It's about 2 hours, so we're not going to sit through all of that, but I'll go ahead and be reacting to some of the highlights that I can see and kind of giving you maybe some more insight and a little backstory on a couple scenes that you'll be seeing. So we'll jump into that in just a minute. If you haven't done so already, do make sure you give this video a like so other people can find this video. And for yourself, make sure you subscribe so you can receive more information like this in the future. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's reaction video. I'm talking about the road trip going through Alaska, Through My Lens YouTube channel.
The state of Alaska, also known as the Last Frontier, is a wild and wonderful place full of snow-covered mountains, rugged backcountry adventures, and tons of different wildlife. A trip to the state is one that you'll certainly never forget. Both my dad and I have had Alaska on our bucket list, so in June of 2021, exactly 2 years after our Route 66 journey, we found ourselves road tripping the state over the course of 8 days. During that time, we saw the largest peak in the United States in Denali National Park, drove the beautiful route from Anchorage to Seward, soaked in the midnight sun, and saw more wildlife than we could comprehend. It was a magical experience, and here's the full 2-hour video on that adventure. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and let's dive into it.
Yeah, I love how he kind of pointed out this is something that they both wanted to do for a while. Once you've lived here for a little bit and maybe visited, you really come to appreciate just how significant and how much of a highlight for a lot of people in their life that coming up to Alaska and seeing everything really is. And you kind of get spoiled after a while living up here because you kind of just take it for granted that, you know, everywhere is the last frontier and you're going to have trees and you're going to have mountains and you're going to have glaciers. And you're going to have awesome rivers and you're going to have all this stuff. And that's obviously not the case. Not everywhere can you just take your iPhone out, take a picture in any direction, and it looks like something from a postcard. So yeah, that just kind of reiterated and reminded me that for a lot of people coming up here, even if it's just for a visit, is definitely a big deal. So great start.
After our short stop, it was back on the road towards Hatcher Pass. Also, just so you know, in this video, I'm trying my hardest with pronunciation. I'm researching all of this online, but in case I get something wrong, I'm trying.
He's doing very good in the pronunciation.
As we were driving, I saw this beautiful old bridge with these massive peaks all around it, so I decided to fly the drone a little bit before continuing on. I mean, how do you beat this view? This is only 30 minutes outside of Anchorage. It just keeps getting better as we continue our drive.
It's true.
As we continued our drive towards Hatcher Pass, our goal was to get to the Independence Mine State Historic Park. Hatcher Pass wasn't open this early in the season, but the mine was, so we wanted to go see it. Pops and I are up on Hatcher Pass, and we're going to Independence Mine State Historic Park. Look at this. Amazing. The old mining area is right below the mountains there. 1 mile to the park. Because of when we went in the middle of June, they hadn't opened the road all the way up to the park itself, so you had to walk a mile along the road.
See, I don't really understand why that is. I think it probably has more to do with a manning issue up here. Because at least in this past season we had, it was really hard to find workers for a lot of the stuff that we were doing. And this will actually come up in a couple other places in the video as well, where they're talking about shortages or this being shut down, that being shut down. Not necessarily from COVID or anything like that, more just from there kind of being a shortage of labor. So for a seasonal worker, that's great. You got some openings.
Get there. That wasn't bad though, as this was one of the most beautiful views we saw in the first few days of our time in Alaska. We are almost there. Look at these views behind us. That's what I pictured when I thought of Alaska.
It's an uphill climb.
Puffs, why can't we drive up here?
Exactly.
One thing I did want to point out real quick. Keep in mind, this is in June that they are up there, and note all the snow that's still there. Just because it's summertime in Alaska does not mean that it's still not winter time in certain parts of it. There's going to be a lot of places where the snow just never leaves during the summertime, just doesn't matter. It's there year round. And Hatcher Pass is definitely one of them. If you're into snowboarding, skiing, then this is going to be a good place for you to go just because the snow does stay around for quite a while.
We've made it to the town. I think that this parking lot is where you should be able to drive, but for some reason we couldn't drive up here.
Sounds a little salty about that.
This is the visitor center, but it is closed. You guys check this out. Look at this city. There's a waterfall back there. Oh my gosh. Mining operations in this area began in 1897 and it was mined all the way until the 1950s. According to the history of this area, they planned to actually reopen it again, but then never did, which is why the area is so well preserved with a lot of mining equipment and buildings still there.
You know, that is definitely one of the big highlights of things that you should do while you're in Hatcher Pass. Go check out the old mine up there, but it's definitely not the only thing. I mean, there are all sorts of trails. There's all sorts of history back there. Actually, in that area, they also have what's called Bomber Glacier, where it was a B-29 that crashed. I think it was around the 50s or 60s, and you can still find the wreckage of the plane up there on the glacier. And obviously, you have a lot of other really cool trails up there as well. So Hatcher's Pass is definitely a favorite of a lot of local people.
122 miles to Denali. We just got gas. Not a lot to see on this ride so far, but we're about 20 minutes from Denali View South, so hopefully we'll get lucky and maybe we'll be able to see the mountain. During this portion of the drive, it's relatively uneventful as the trees block your view most of the way.
Okay, I am really glad that he brought that up. He's correct. During the summertime, you're not going to really have a whole lot of views on either side of the road as you're driving. And that's unfortunate. But if you do drive it during the winter time, you're going to have a lot more visibility all the way around just because leaves are going to be falling off the trees. Also, if you get the opportunity, do take the Alaska railroad system going up to Fairbanks, the Talkeetna area as well, because you actually get a really scenic view that way and you don't have issues with the trees blocking you in, and it's pretty spectacular if you get a chance to go. They did not have the chance to do it in this video, but for sure you need to make sure that's on your bucket list when you're making plans to come up here.
We made it to the McKinley View Lodge and Shop, which we thought was Denali View South, but it wasn't. This is the view from Denali South. It would be right here, but it's covered in clouds. Nice view of the rest of the Alaska range though, but no Denali for us.
No Denali today.
And I'm glad they showed that as well. It's been a little while since I've been able to actually see Denali, even though I actually live here. And the reason for that is you make this big, long trip to get there, but Denali is such a tall mountain. Chances are good the clouds are going to be covering it at some point. So it's kind of rare to get a really good shot to see it when it's out there in its full glory. I don't know, maybe I'm just got bad timing on when I go out there, but it's kind of rare that you can actually get a really good picture of Denali.
At least not yet.
So we thought where we were
giant.
stopping at was the viewpoint, but it wasn't. So here's the actual Denali viewpoint south. Now that we've seen the sign, Denali is actually right here. But, so right there, but you definitely can't see anything. Not a bad day though, other than that. We actually got a really clear day and I thought that maybe we'd be able to see it, but that far in the distance, it was completely covered in clouds. This is a great turnout though. There's lots of information about the mountains that you're looking at and some great views and even some things that let you zoom in on the mountains as well.
If you're planning some family pictures, family portraits, that's a great little place to plan to do it. You may or may not get Denali in the background, but worth a shot.
We got a beautiful day. Can't complain, but no Denali.
Yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles every now and then when it comes to Denali. So plan as best you can and hope for the best. That's really about the best you can do with Denali.
This is our first stop in the park. We're going to meet the sled dogs, and then we're going out to the end, which is Savage River, and we're going to do a hike there.
Love the
If you
names
see
of
a wolf,
rivers in
you have to
Alaska.
get tough. I don't know if you know how to get tough.
I'm gonna say, go away.
Sled dog kennels to the right. This sled dog area is only open in the summer, usually from June to September. There's a training cart that they use for training the dogs. When you visit here, you can talk to the rangers, interact with the dogs, and understand the work that the dogs do to protect the wilderness area of Denali. This shows all the park's mushing trails during the winter. Hey, doggy. Oh, don't like me? You don't like me?
So real quick, I just got a comment on that. Sled dogs, from my experience and from talking with mushers, they're not particularly social animals necessarily. And by that, I mean, they're not going to be like your house pets that are just so happy to see you unless you do spend a lot of time with them. That's kind of just what I've heard. But yeah, you kind of see that a little bit here.
Hey, I gave you a nice pet now. If you're interested in why they still use sled dogs in Denali National Park, there's a ton of information about this on the National Park website. Basically, it boils down to tradition, reliability, and access, and you should definitely read about it online. I'll leave a link in the description.
Yeah, I am actually really glad that he brought up sled dogs because I know that's believe it or not becoming more and more of a controversial issue just with PETA in the previous years. I am not going to go too far down that rabbit trail, but yeah, let me tell you, if you've never seen the start of the Iditarod, you really owe it to yourself. Those dogs are definitely not there against their will. They are literally jumping up, lunging against their harnesses, trying to get going. And not only that, they're usually pretty much like that at the end of it as well. So yeah, sled dogs are awesome. They're part of the heritage up here. And if you get a chance, definitely go see the start of the Iditarod. You don't want to miss that.
After spending time with the sled dogs, we continued our way into the park. You'll see how amazing the views get as you get deeper into the park on the bus tour that we take, but if you can only do the first 15 miles, it's a great introduction into Denali National Park. Eventually we made it to the end of where we could drive in the park, which was the Savage River area. There's a few popular hiking trails out here that we decided to do. This is our last stop of the day in Denali, and technically only our second stop in the park, but we are going out on the Savage River Loop and the Savage Alpine Trail up there. This is the end of where you can drive, so after that spot, you have to take a bus.
You know, there's a lot of really good trails in Denali. If you have the time, and by time I mean, you know, probably all day or possibly 2 days, you definitely need to go hike the Kasuki Ridge. It is about a 30-mile hike. And as you're going, though, you're more or less going to be going on a parallel ridge from which you can actually see Denali if it's on a clear day. So you definitely want to go try that one out. For those of you who are feeling extra adventurous, they actually do have a race that goes the full 30 miles as well. So while we're talking about Denali trails.
Eventually, after passing the rock, you'll make it to the turnoff for the Matanuska Glacier. From here, you travel down a dirt road and across a few bridges in order to get to the Glacier check-in area.
Yeah,
this check-in building is as far as you can drive without a ticket. Got our tickets and we are ready to go. So this glacier is privately owned, so you can't actually even get close to it without paying for a tour. So we booked the tour, which was $65 right now, and we're gonna drive out and meet our guide and start the hike.
So this is actually hot local politics here for a little bit. The access to Matanuska Glacier actually is someone's private property, and for a while they were having issues with a lot of people kind of just tromping through, and the owner of the property was not too thrilled about it. There were some kind of standoffs going on there from time to time. Luckily, it sounds like everything's okay now. But you do have to pay to actually get in there and go for a tour. You can also do a helicopter tour as well. On this one, they are going to walk on the glacier, so that's a fun experience as well. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful out there. It's going to be very muddy as you're getting close to glaciers. Not only that, but the water, it's not really going to be clear coming away from the glacier, just because the glacier grinds all of the rocks that it's going over into very fine silt, and it gets into the water and makes it really cloudy. That's why some of the rivers up here, if you get up here, you'll notice they're really murky. And that's probably because there's a glacier upstream depositing all that silt into the water. So there you go. There's your glacier lesson of the day.
Look at what we just saw. We have made it to the glacier.
Incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, you definitely need to make time in your schedule to go see at least one glacier, even if you're just visiting Alaska. If you live up here, you definitely need to go see multiple ones. But yeah, Matanuska Glacier is a great one to start with.
The drive from Anchorage to Seward is about 2.5 hours each way, and it's often voted one of the most beautiful drives in the United States. I've gone on a lot of road trips and driven many beautiful drives, and this was easily a top 3 drive for me as well. Starting out, the road goes along the Turnagain Arm with many different pullouts to get views of the water and the mountains behind it. This is the first major point of interest on our drive, Beluga Point. Beluga Point is probably the most popular pullout on this drive, and it's often used for seeing beluga whales during the summer.
You know, I'm going to be honest, I think I've seen beluga whales out there one time. So if you do see them out there, make sure you do take plenty of pictures. Drive to Seward is absolutely beautiful, and they talk about some of the activities you can do along the route too. So I really do like that. You need to watch the entire video to see what that's all about, all the stuff you can do along the way. But yeah, drive to Seward, absolutely beautiful. Seward is actually where I go to kind of get off the grid a little bit when I need to recharge and just kind of relax a little bit and detox. So yeah, I'm very familiar with that drive.
Eventually we made our way out of the park and we're back on our way to Seward. While it doesn't have the water the first half of the drive had, it has towering peaks on both sides of you. If you're staying in the Anchorage area for a couple days, it's hard to beat a drive like this as it introduces you into the beauty of Alaska. Made it to the town of Seward. We're gonna get some lunch and explore a little bit and then go hike another glacier. Unfortunately, due to staffing issues, most of the restaurants in the downtown area were closed, and the ones that were open were over 2 hours to wait.
All right, I'm really glad that he did bring that up because I was actually in Seward about the same time. And yeah, that was the same experience that I had. I could not really get any places that had the staffing to really help. And part of that is COVID, people deciding maybe they don't want to be working right now. Part of the issue is it's also just kind of a smaller town to begin with. When I went there, it was actually the day right before they had a parade scheduled for Lydia Jacoby, which if you don't know, she is I believe she's 16, a 16-year-old Olympian that went to the Olympics and medaled there and obviously did very well. So she's definitely a big local celebrity, and that's where she lives. And yeah, it's definitely a small town. So very cool though. If you go there, you have a disproportionate chance of running into an Olympian. So that's awesome.
Down towards the waterfront park. The waterfront park area is amazing as it looks out over Resurrection Bay with some incredible views. We talked to a couple on our Denali bus ride who had done a boat tour of the Kenai Fjords National Park, and they said it was amazing. Their tour left out of Seward, and I wish I would have been able to do this while I was here, but I'll have to come back.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing you need to try to get on your schedule. I mean, they've got whale sightseeing. They've got a ton of stuff that you can do from Seward. If you're into charter halibut fishing, that's a great place that a lot of people will start from as well. If you have a family, The Alaska Sea Life Center is also going to be a great place where you can go and see all the Alaska sea life up close for the family without having to be too worried. So definitely do make time for that if you're in the area and you get a family. Now, in this last little piece here, I really like it because they're back in Anchorage at this point. They've left Seward, and it really does show kind of the evening, what it looks like in Alaska during the summertime, and is really kind of a good end overall for the video. So let's go and take a look.
We watched the freight boats go in and out, watched the planes come down, and just enjoyed soaking in the last sunset of our trip. It ended up being pretty cloudy, but it still gave way to some beautiful views, especially right at the end of sunset.